My parents only had me, so I could play the role of my dead little brother. My parents chose my gender for me, and now I want to switch back. I was 6 when my mom started calling me Mikey instead of Matilda. I recognized the name immediately. It was the name of my dead baby brother that my mom miscarried before me, the one they always talked about. Well, I didn't want to be difficult, so I responded without complaint. But from there, it was like a switch had flipped. First, the Barbies disappeared from my room, replaced with Hot Wheels tracks. Mom would beam whenever I crashed toy trucks together instead of brushing doll hair. Dad bought me a baseball glove for my 7th birthday, even though I'd circled the Easy Bake Oven in the Toys R Us catalog. And it was around this time that I learned that getting my parents to love me was infinitely more important than what I wanted. So by the time I was in elementary school, I'd perfected the act. Cargo shorts, graphic tees with sharks on them, hair buzzed short every 3 weeks at Frank's barbershop. The first time I used the boys' bathroom, my hands shook so bad I could barely work the zipper, but I did it for them. Naturally, this led to a few questions arising, but I'd always shut them down with authority and tell them this is just how things are, or at least as much authority as a 7-year-old can humanly possess, lol. Eventually, I think my teachers actually started believing I was a boy because the questions faltered. And you know what's messed up? The better I got at being Mikey, the more they loved me. Dad started taking me to Knicks games. Mom made my favorite chocolate chip pancakes every Sunday, ruffling my short hair while calling me her perfect little man. She'd get this look in her eyes sometimes, staring at me like she was seeing someone else. At night, I'd lie in my NASCAR sheets and imagine what it would feel like to paint my nails purple and be called Matilda. That was my real name, the one they'd picked before they wanted me to be someone I wasn't. But then I'd remember how Mom cried on the anniversary of Mikey's due date, and I'd push those dreams down deeper. Middle school was when the cracks started showing. I had to tape down my chest to flatten what was growing, wore hoodies in summer to hide my changing shape. The worst part was Dad. He'd get this uncomfortable look whenever I slipped up, giggled too high, sat with my legs crossed wrong, gestured too delicately. He never said anything, just cleared his throat and looked away. But he knew. We both knew, and we both kept pretending. Then came the morning I woke up to blood. I was 15 and thought I was dying. I ran sobbing to my parents' room, pajama bottoms soaked red. Mom took one look and went pale. "Get out!" she screamed. "Get out! Get out! Get out!" Dad grabbed my shoulders, steered me to the hallway. His hands were shaking. "Matilda," he said. My real name sounded foreign in his mouth. "We need to talk." That's when he told me everything. "When you were born a girl, Mom couldn't handle it," Dad whispered. "The doctor said playing along might help her heal." Rage boiled my blood. 9 years, I said. "You made me pretend for 9 years. It was the first time my family gave me permission to be angry, and now it was all coming out at once. Just do it for a little longer," he begged. "For her. Please. You're all she has left of him." I felt something inside me break. I'm done being your ghost. The next day, I took my babysitting money to Target, bought everything Mikey was supposed to hate. Sundresses, lip gloss, hair clips, pink everything. The girl at the register smiled and said I had great taste. I almost cried right there in the checkout line. Mom was waiting when I got home. As soon as she saw the bags, her face went dark. "What did you do?" "I'm done being Mikey," I said, pulling out a yellow sundress. "My name is Matilda." She grabbed the kitchen scissors so fast I didn't see it coming, started shredding the dress, screaming about how I was culling her baby all over again. Dad tried to stop her, but she turned on him, scissors raised. That's when I dialed 911. The cops separated us. A social worker with tired eyes asked me questions while Mom sobbed in the kitchen. "I need to see some documents," she said. "Birth certificates, medical records." Dad returned with papers, hands trembling. The social worker spread them across our table, cross-referencing on her tablet. Her frown deepened. "Mr. Peterson, you said your son died in 2009? March 15th, Mom whispered. "I held him for 6 minutes." The social worker showed her screen to her partner. They exchanged a look that made my stomach drop. "There's no death certificate on file. No birth certificate either. In fact," she scrolled, "there's no record of your wife giving birth at any hospital that year. These medical files show her only pregnancy was with Matilda." The room spun. Mom started laughing, this broken sound. Before anyone could say anything else, my mom screamed, "He was real! I have proof! The shoebox!" I stopped listening after that, because that's when I knew my life had been ruined for no other reason than my mom being an effing psycho. Mom lunged for the hall closet while screaming, "The shoebox under the winter coats." Dad tried to restrain her, but she elbowed him hard in the stomach. He doubled over, gasping. The social worker quickly blocked the closet, her voice calm but firm. She told Mom she needed to sit down. I noticed Mom's hands shaking violently, like she was having withdrawals. She kept scratching at her arms, leaving angry red marks on her skin. "You don't understand? I have his hospital bracelet!" Mom's voice cracked as she shouted. The officers exchanged concerned looks. One of them stepped away to radio for backup and a mental health professional. Through the kitchen window, I saw Mrs. Chen from next door peeking at the police cars. She had her phone out, and I knew she was already texting the neighborhood group chat. Within minutes, everyone would know something was happening at the Peterson house. An officer approached me, asking if I felt safe. I had to choose between watching Mom's breakdown or answering his questions. Mom kept whispering, "Mikey, Mikey, Mikey," over and over like a prayer. The sound made my skin crawl. While I spoke to the officer in the living room, trying to explain years of confusion in simple terms, Mom somehow slipped past everyone. She dumped the entire closet contents on the floor, frantically searching through winter coats and old boxes. Dad's phone started ringing. I recognized his mother's ringtone. The doorbell chimed at the same time, probably another nosy neighbor. And that's when Mom found the shoebox, clutching it to her chest like treasure. Without thinking, I started picking up the mess she'd made. It was automatic after years of keeping Mom happy, keeping the peace. The officer noticed my compulsive tidying and made a note on his pad. Mom opened the shoebox with shaking hands. Inside were tiny baby clothes, an ultrasound photo, and a handwritten birth plan for Michael James Peterson, dated 2009. My dead brother, who was never born. My phone buzzed. Emma texted, "OMG, are you okay? My mom says there's cops at your house." The social worker noticed and asked about about my support system. I didn't know how to explain that my best friend thought I was a boy named Mikey. The social worker glanced at the ultrasound, asking Mom basic questions about the pregnancy. When did she find out? Which doctor? What hospital? While Mom rambled answers, I saw the social worker secretly photographing the documents with her phone. She kept Mom talking while gathering evidence. Dad was trying to delete something on his phone when an officer asked him to step outside for questioning. His face went white as he fumbled with the screen. Grandma Peterson's car screeched into our driveway. She stormed in, demanding to know why her son was being questioned. She grabbed Dad's arm, hissing about needing him to co-sign her home equity loan tomorrow. Even now, it was about money. The social worker turned to me, asking if I'd ever tried to tell anyone before. The words tumbled out. I tried telling my teacher in 3rd grade, but I trailed off, remembering how Mrs. Martinez had smiled and said I had such an imagination. Mom's Facebook started pinging with worried messages as Mrs. Chen's post spread through the neighborhood. Before anyone could stop her, Mom grabbed my phone and started responding as me, using my account to tell people everything was fine. From outside, I heard Dad telling the officer, "My wife's been struggling since the miscarriage." I couldn't help myself. I shouted from inside, "There was no miscarriage." Mom's face twisted. She still controlled my health insurance, she reminded me. She could cancel my therapy appointments if I kept lying. Tuesday's appointment was specifically for gender dysphoria treatment, the one thing keeping me sane. I was so exhausted. When addressing the social worker, I accidentally called her Mrs. Mom, then broke down crying in embarrassment. Years of training had messed with my head. Aunt Sarah, Mom's sister, arrived next. She pulled Mom aside, whispering urgently, "I can't keep covering for you, but I can't let them take you either." My stomach dropped. She knew something. She'd known all along. Through the window, I saw neighbors gathering on the sidewalk, whispering and pointing. I caught a fragment. "Always thought that kid was off." Mom changed tactics, claiming the ultrasound was from her support group friend who'd lost a baby. She'd kept it for inspiration, she said. The lie was so smooth, I almost believed it myself. Emma's mom texted Dad, "If you need someone to take Matilda for a few days, but I need to know she's safe first." At least someone was using my real name. I'd had enough. I pulled up Mom's old Facebook on the tablet the social worker had left on the table. Her 2009 photos showed her drinking at wine club meetings throughout the month she claimed to be pregnant. She was tagged by 3 different friends, holding wine glasses, clearly not pregnant. Dad saw the posts and started to smile at catching Mom's lie. Then he noticed I was recording his reaction on the officer's suggestion. His smile vanished. Mom locked eyes with me, her voice deadly quiet. "You want to be a girl? Fine, but you'll do it without parents." I realized then that Mom had already sent a group text from my phone before the officers even arrived. The timestamp showed it was sent during the initial chaos. She'd used all our inside jokes perfectly, telling everyone I was having a breakdown and needed space. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the responses from friends offering support for my identity crisis. Dad was now telling the social worker that Mom was just trying to help me fit in better, while Mom told a different officer that Dad had forced his delusions on their daughter. They were already coordinating their stories, turning me into the problem child who couldn't decide who she wanted to be. The social worker asked to see more documentation. I remembered my old journal from when I was 8, hidden under my mattress. I ran to get it, hoping it would help my case. But when I opened it, my heart sank. Page after page in my childish handwriting. "I love being Mikey. Mommy smiles now." My own words would support their narrative. Grandma Peterson cornered the officer, insisting that I'd always been Mikey to them. She pulled out a Christmas card from last year, signed "Love Mikey" in my handwriting. She explained that this whole Matilda thing was just teenage rebellion, nothing more. The social worker asked about my morning routine. I explained how I'd left for school in my usual boy clothes, planning to change at Emma's house. But then she pulled up our Ring doorbell footage on Dad's phone. There I was, leaving in cargo shorts and a baseball jersey, looking every bit the teenage boy they claimed I was. My timeline was falling apart. An emergency custody evaluator arrived within the hour. She took notes as Mom expressed appropriate concern for her child's sudden gender confusion and mental health. Mom had shifted into concerned parent mode so smoothly it was terrifying. She even offered to get me help for my identity issues. While everyone was distracted, I grabbed Mom's iPad. I knew her password. It was Mikey's supposed birthday. My fingers flew across the screen until I found what I was looking for. Her Pinterest board titled "Raising My Angel Boy" started in 2014. She'd collected 2,847 pins over the years. Pictures of boy nurseries, articles about raising sons, quotes about boy moms, all while knowing I was Matilda. Dad's LinkedIn profile showed recent posts about teaching his son the family business. There was even a photo from last month of us at his office, me in a suit and tie, smiling uncomfortably. Every piece of evidence they'd created over the years was being weaponized against me. The doorbell rang again. Dr. Harrison from the pediatric clinic had arrived. He spoke to the social worker about Mom's devoted care during every appointment, how she'd always been so attentive to her son's needs. He mentioned my recent behavioral changes that had concerned the nurses. Of course they were concerned. I'd finally started pushing back. I tried to record Mom ranting about her ungrateful daughter, but she spotted my phone immediately. Her entire demeanor shifted. Suddenly she was crying about losing both her babies, putting on an Oscar-worthy performance for everyone in the room. The social worker actually put a comforting hand on her shoulder. School pickup time came and went. Mom's carpool partner texted asking where Mikey was for baseball practice. Another text about tomorrow's game. More evidence of the life they'd built for their fictional son. The officer called Frank from the barbershop to verify some details. Frank wouldn't speak against his customers. He needed their business. He simply confirmed that he cut the kid's hair every 3 weeks. Nothing more. Another dead end. I noticed Mom was wearing her baseball team hoodie, the one with Mikey's mom embroidered on the back in big blue letters. She wouldn't take it off even when the officer suggested she might be more comfortable without it. She was clinging to her fantasy even now. Mom suddenly became reasonable, offering to get me help for my confusion if everyone would just leave. She promised to support my journey, whatever I decided. The social worker seemed impressed by her willingness to compromise. I wanted to scream that it was all an act. When I refused Mom's offer, the social worker documented it as concerning resistance to reconciliation. She noted that I was rejecting my mother's support during a difficult time. Everything I did was being twisted against me. The social worker received a phone call and stepped away. When she returned, her expression had changed. She'd spoken to someone named Rebecca about the ultrasound photo. The name on it was Walsh, but Mom's maiden name was Harris. Mom had stolen the ultrasound from a real grieving mother. Dad's face crumpled. He admitted to finding Mom's memory box years ago, but thought it was from a cousin or friend she was supporting. He'd never imagined she'd created an entire fantasy around a baby that was never hers. I examined the baby clothes in the shoebox more carefully. The price tags were still attached, dated 2014, not 2009 when the supposed miscarriage happened. Mom had been planning this transformation for years before she actually did it. Grandma Peterson pulled Dad aside. Her voice carried even though she was trying to whisper. She made it clear either he supported his wife or he'd lose his inheritance. Grandpa's will was very specific about family loyalty. I watched Dad's shoulders slump in defeat. Dad returned to the social worker, suddenly claiming he'd misunderstood the situation. Maybe I was confused. Maybe they should listen to what Mom had been saying. His betrayal hit harder than any of Mom's lies. I texted Emma's mom, begging her to check if there was any Michael Peterson in the 2009 obituaries. I was playing their game now, gathering my own evidence. Later, I accidentally ran into Mom's pregnant coworker at the pharmacy while with Aunt Sarah. I asked about the ultrasound photos on Mom's desk at work, the ones she showed everyone. The coworker looked confused. There were no photos on Mom's desk. Mom's Google Photos account was still logged in on the iPad. The auto backup revealed years of collecting boy-mom content and fake ultrasounds from various websites. She'd been building her fantasy since 2014, creating a digital shrine to a son who never existed. A car pulled up fast. Dad's sister Rebecca had driven 2 hours after getting my desperate message. She stormed in demanding custody of her niece, not nephew. Finally, someone who saw me for who I really was. The CPS supervisor arrived to mediate. Both aunts had equal claim for temporary custody. While they argued, I missed my therapy appointment. My therapist texted about the no-show fee. Another consequence of this chaos. I checked my bank app. The Target shopping spree had maxed out my babysitting savings. I couldn't even afford lunch at school tomorrow. The price of trying to be myself was adding up in ways I hadn't expected. Mom orchestrated a confrontation at the grocery store when she spotted me with Aunt Rebecca. She sobbed loudly about kidnapping, drawing stares from other shoppers. Rebecca held my hand tightly as we walked away, but the damage was done. Everyone had seen the dramatic scene. The principal called Rebecca's phone. I'd been marked absent for 3 days now. If I missed any more school, I'd lose my honor roll status. College applications were due next month. My entire future was crumbling because I'd dared to wear a dress. That night, I slept on Rebecca's couch while Mom posted missing my baby on Facebook with all my boy photos. The comments poured in supporting her, praying for Mikey's safe return. She'd turned me into a runaway son instead of a daughter fighting for her identity. Dad texted me directly for the first time. Just come home and be Mikey until you're 18, then do whatever you want. The path of least resistance. 3 more years of living a lie. I deleted the message without responding. Emma's mom received an anonymous call about harboring a runaway. Someone threatened her daycare license if she kept helping me. She had to ask me not to visit anymore. Mom's reach was extending everywhere. Emma herself texted next, crying emojis filling the screen. Her parents were threatening to switch her schools if she stayed involved with my situation. She was sorry, so sorry, but she couldn't lose everything for me. I understood, but it still hurt. I kept posting my truth on Instagram despite losing followers daily. Friends I'd had since elementary school unfollowed me. The baseball team blocked me en masse. My social life was evaporating. Aunt Rebecca asked me a hard question while making dinner. What if Mom really believed she'd had a son? What if she was sick, not evil? I couldn't answer. The distinction mattered for treatment, but not for the damage done. I made a TikTok admitting something I'd never told anyone. In 4th grade, a girl had called me pretty. I'd hit her. Not hard, but enough to make her cry. I'd done it to maintain my cover as Mikey. The guilt had eaten at me for years. Rebecca helped me access Dad's email. He'd never changed his password from my birthday. There they were. Forwarded Amazon receipts from Mom. Orders for Mikey's clothes placed just days after she'd viewed my birth certificate online. She'd always known I was Matilda. The emergency hearing was moved up. Mom's lawyer claimed parental alienation by extended family members. Rebecca had to give a deposition. The legal bills were mounting on both sides. In court, Mom told the judge she just wanted me to have the confidence of a boy in a sexist world. She made it sound noble, like she was protecting me from discrimination. Some people in the gallery nodded along with her speech. Then Mom genuinely cried, talking about losing her mother to breast cancer. She couldn't face raising another girl, only to possibly lose her the same way. Real tears, real pain, but it didn't excuse what she'd done to me. I had to admit on record that I'd played along for years. I'd even corrected people who questioned whether I was really a boy. My credibility was shattered by my own survival tactics. Mom's lawyer presented videos from over the years. There I was at 8, joyfully playing baseball. At 10, proudly showing off a skateboard trick. At 12, laughing with the boys' basketball team. I looked genuinely happy in all of them because I'd learned that being Mikey meant being loved. Rebecca's lawyer filed a motion to compel psychiatric evaluation for Mom. Her public statements about Mikey demonstrated potential harm to a minor. It was a small victory in a losing battle. The judge ordered supervised visitation only. Mom collapsed in genuine grief. We'd lost each other. She'd lost her fantasy son, and I'd lost any chance of a normal mother. We were both grieving different versions of the same person. Dad filed a claim that Rebecca had coached me. He produced texts taken out of context, making it seem like she'd convinced me to reject my parents. The betrayal went deeper than I'd imagined. Everything hinged on Dr. Patricia Kumar, Mom's therapist of 10 years. She held the keys to Mom's mental state, but therapist-patient privilege meant she could only share limited information. Our entire case might depend on what she could legally say. Mom's manipulation grew more sophisticated. She posted old videos of me saying I loved being a boy, carefully edited to remove the context, usually her promising some reward if I performed well. My own voice was being used against me. The custody evaluator interviewed my teachers. 3 sided with Mom, talking about what a devoted mother she'd always been. 2 supported me, mentioning times they'd noticed something seemed off. The principal remained neutral, not wanting to divide the school community. Support letters poured in from both sides. The mailman wrote one for each party. The community was splitting down the middle, everyone choosing sides in a battle that should never have existed. The judge ordered psychological evaluations for everyone, but the earliest appointment was 6 weeks out. 6 weeks of limbo, living with Rebecca while my parents prepared their next move. 6 weeks of missed school, therapy, and normal teenage life. I called Mom's best friend Janet, hoping for an ally. She admitted she'd always wondered about the situation, but Mom had seemed so happy finally. After years of trying to conceive, she'd finally had her boy. Janet provided Mom's fertility clinic records but refused to testify against her friend. Mom's own Facebook posts from 2008 to 2009 became evidence. Post after post about fertility struggles, including one that said, "Doctor says my eggs are no good, but I will be a mother." Posted just 2 months before she claimed to be pregnant with Mikey. Dad finally broke down during a meeting with social services. He admitted Mom had threatened Sewers lied if he didn't play along with a Mikey fantasy. He couldn't lose her too, he said. He'd already lost so much. His enabling had come from fear, not malice, but the damage was the same. The Target employee who'd witnessed our confrontation provided a written statement. She'd seen Mom follow me into the store and wait by the dresses before approaching. She'd been hunting me, not randomly discovering my purchase. It became clear that Mom had spent my entire childhood preparing for this eventual rebellion. Every photo, every document, every social media post had been carefully curated to support her narrative of having a son. She'd documented the perfect boy while erasing all traces of Matilda. I finally understood something that broke my heart all over again. Mom needed me to be Mikey more than she needed me to exist as myself. I was never enough as Matilda. Only as her replacement son was I worthy of love. Rebecca and I decided to fight for custody rather than emancipation. If I was legally emancipated, there would be no protection for future Mikeys. Mom might adopt or foster, creating new victims. At least this way, there would be a record. Mom's own documentation backfired spectacularly. The school forms she'd filled out claiming I was transgender included her own notes about me refusing to accept biological sex. Her own words proved she'd been forcing the identity on me. I presented 47 pieces of evidence to the judge without anger, just exhaustion. Photos, documents, social media posts, text messages. The judge noted my unusual composure for a 15-year-old. I'd learned to shut down my emotions to survive. A clear pattern emerged from Mom's social media. Years of posts about being a boy mom, sharing articles about raising sons, joining groups for mothers of boys. Not a single post about daughters. Not one photo of me as Matilda after age 6. Both legal teams prepared for Dr. Kumar's testimony. Everything depended on what she could share without violating privilege. She held 10 years of Mom's secrets, 10 years of truth that might finally set me free. The courtroom was packed. Baseball team parents filled the rows behind Mom, while my real friends, all 3 of them, sat with Rebecca. Emma had come alone, sitting in the back corner, her eyes red from crying. Mom compulsively straightened the baseball photos she'd brought, arranging them on the table in front of her. I caught myself unconsciously deepening my voice when the judge asked me questions. Years of habit were hard to break. Dr. Kumar took the stand. She carefully stated that treatment had been ongoing for a decade and that she had concerns about the minor's safety. The judge noted the implications while Dr. Kumar avoided revealing privileged information. Her measured words spoke volumes. Then Grandma Peterson made her confession. She admitted telling Mom they'd write her out of the will if she didn't give them a grandson. The family business needed a male heir, she explained, as if that justified destroying my childhood. The judge ordered full psychological evaluations for our entire family, with separate therapeutic interventions required. The court-appointed document examiner approached with his findings. What he revealed made the entire courtroom gasp. The birth certificate had been crudely altered with whiteout and reprinting. Social services had suspected it from day one. Forgery of a government document was a felony, he stated clearly. Mom's delusion went deeper than anyone realized. She believed I was Mikey reincarnated, not just a replacement. Same soul, wrong body, she'd told Dr. Kumar in sessions. The therapist confirmed this without breaking privilege. Mom finally broke completely. She screamed that she'd had a miscarriage at 6 weeks, that Mikey was real to her. The judge had to call a recess as Mom sobbed uncontrollably. When we reconvened, the judge asked if I wanted Mom to face criminal charges for identity fraud. The courtroom held its breath. I thought about all the years of lies, the stolen childhood, the life I'd never lived. I chose mandatory therapy over prosecution. Mom needed help, not prison. I still wanted my real mother back someday, if that was even possible. The custody decision came swiftly. Rebecca was granted full custody, while my parents would get supervised visitation pending completion of their treatment programs. Mom wailed as the decision was read. The community reaction was immediate and harsh. Baseball parents turned their backs on me in the courthouse hallway. 3 neighbors approached Rebecca to offer support, while others whispered about that family situation. The Little League board announced they were relocating their fundraiser to avoid controversy. School became my next battle. I started sophomore year at a new school as myself, as Matilda. The administration had my records corrected, though some teachers still slipped and called me Mikey. I kept one photo from the happy times, a Halloween picture where I'd actually chosen my own princess costume before Mom made me change. Dad couldn't let go. He showed up at my new school with Mikey's baseball gear, insisting I'd want it back eventually. Security had to escort him off campus. Rebecca filed for a restraining order that afternoon, and it was granted to include both parents. Mom's treatment facility sent weekly updates to the court. She was struggling to accept reality, they reported. Some days she acknowledged having a daughter. Other days she insisted Mikey would come home. The therapist worked patiently with her delusions. I discovered mom had opened credit cards in Mikey's name. Identity theft on top of everything else. Rebecca helped me file fraud reports. The financial mess took months to untangle. Each document another reminder of how deep mom's fantasy had gone. Emma reached out through a mutual friend. She wanted to reconnect, but her parents still forbade it. We managed one brief meeting at a coffee shop. She cried, apologizing repeatedly. I understood her position, but our friendship couldn't survive the weight of everything that had happened. Dad moved in with Grandma Peterson. He sent letters through the court-appointed supervisor, each one more desperate than the last. He wrote about missing his child, though he still couldn't consistently use my real name. Sometimes he'd write Matilda, sometimes Mikey, like he was caught between two realities. The psychological evaluation results were extensive. Mom showed signs of complicated grief disorder and delusional disorder. Dad exhibited dependent personality traits and enabling behaviors. My evaluation showed remarkable resilience, but also complex PTSD from years of identity suppression. Janet, mom's friend, finally came forward with more evidence. She brought photos from mom's pregnancy period. Mom with wine glasses at book club, clearly not pregnant. She'd kept quiet out of loyalty, but couldn't watch another child suffer. Rebecca enrolled me in a support group for teens with identity issues. The first meeting was awkward. My situation was unique even among kids who'd faced family rejection. But slowly, I found my voice among peers who understood hiding your true self. Mom's Pinterest account became evidence in the custody review. Thousands of pins about raising boys, dating back years before she claimed Mikey existed. The board titled My Son's Future contained college plans, career paths, even wedding inspiration, all for a boy who was never born. The restraining order violations started small. Dad would drive past Rebecca's house slowly. Mom sent packages to my school addressed to Mikey Peterson. Each violation extended the order and added to their legal troubles. I legally changed my name to Matilda Rebecca Peterson, taking my aunt's name as my middle name. The courthouse clerk smiled as she processed the paperwork. It was the first official document in 9 years that showed my real name. Mom's facility arranged a supervised video call for my birthday. She'd made a cake and sang happy birthday to Mikey. The supervisor gently corrected her. Mom's face went blank, then she hung up. It was the last time I'd speak to her for months. The financial investigation revealed more fraud. Mom had claimed me as a dependent using Mikey's fabricated social security number. The IRS launched their own investigation. What started as identity confusion had spiraled into federal crimes. Rebecca's house became my sanctuary. She'd converted her guest room into a proper teenage girl's room, not overly pink or frilly, just normal. I spent hours staring at myself in the mirror, trying to recognize the person looking back. School counselors worked with me on catching up socially. 9 years of forced male socialization had left gaps. I didn't know how to navigate female friendships, how to exist in spaces I'd been banned from. Every day brought new challenges. Dad's letters became increasingly erratic. He'd write about Mikey's baseball stats, then apologize to Matilda, then beg Mikey to come home. Rebecca showed them to the court supervisor, who recommended extending his mandatory therapy. Mom escaped her facility during an outdoor activity. She made it to our old house, now up for sale, and barricaded herself inside. Police found her in my old room, surrounded by Mikey's things, singing lullabies. She was transferred to a more secure facility. The community division deepened. Local businesses had to choose sides. Frank's barbershop lost customers who supported me, while others boycotted places that still served my parents. The town newspaper ran a careful article about family crisis, without naming names, but everyone knew. Dr. Kumar testified at the final custody hearing. She revealed that Mom had been planning the transformation since before my birth, disappointed by ultrasounds showing a girl. The fantasy of Mikey had existed longer than I had. Rebecca hired a lawyer to pursue civil damages for the years of abuse, not for money, but to create legal precedent protecting other children. The case would take years, but it mattered for future Matildas. I started therapy specifically for identity reconstruction. Twice a week, I worked on discovering who Matilda actually was, separate from who Mikey had been forced to be. The therapist specialized in cases of imposed identity. Mom's mother, my other grandmother, finally spoke out. She'd been estranged from Mom for years, warning that her daughter's obsession with having a son was unhealthy. She'd tried to intervene when I was born, but Mom cut her off completely. The final custody review confirmed Rebecca's permanent guardianship. Mom's parental rights were suspended pending successful completion of intensive therapy. Dad retained limited rights, but only under strict supervision. The judge called it one of the most complex cases of psychological abuse he'd seen. 6 months later, I was thriving in my school's theater program. The stage became a place where playing a character was a choice, not a survival mechanism. Mom had started accepting reality in her intensive therapy, though progress was slow. Dad lived with his mother, processing years of enabling behavior. Rebecca provided the stable home I'd never had, with clear boundaries and unconditional acceptance. I was building my identity beyond survival mode, discovering I loved poetry, hated math, and had a talent for painting. At dinner, I still set 3 places at the table. One for me, one for Rebecca, and one for Hope. Hope that someday I'd have parents who could love Matilda, not the ghost of a boy who never existed.